What's up, guys? Jrad here. Today we're going to be looking at what I think are going to be 5 of the top league starting builds for hardcore players for the upcoming 3.20 Forbidden Sanctum expansion for Path of Exile. So let's get to it. First up, we have the Poison Seismic Trap Saboteur. Now, this has long been one of the best league starters, especially for bossing, for quite some time now, and it got a considerable buff this league. One reason is Temporal Chains got a massive buff. Another is there was a hidden bug that was basically, long story short, making your poison do less damage than it should. So this already powerful build should be even stronger for the upcoming league. So let's get to it. For leveling, what I would recommend doing is starting out with Explosive Trap. You're going to put a chance to poison support in there right away. And as soon as you can, Swift Assembly. What else we can get going on is a Bear Trap with multiple traps. Now this will not only hold unique enemies and bosses in place, but it also makes them take extra damage from the hits from Explosive Trap, so it's very handy. Another good thing to have is a Clarity, because running out of mana absolutely sucks. If you can, buy a Vitality from the vendor as well. Run that. It's very important to stay alive in hardcore, obviously, or you're back to the beach. So for leveling, that's basically your early setup. Gets you through the early parts of Act 1, no problem. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can come this way and save yourself the regret orbs. But what I like doing is coming right across here to give myself more damage right out the gate, and I just refund those points later if you want to. I mean, some people keep them in there. Then we'll come this way, grabbing Fangs of the Viper. And this is really important. Blood Drinker. This is really good for survivability, especially early on. Gives you 2% of life on kill. Then you can grab this Mastery, plus 50 to maximum life. The next life node. And this is a pretty good balanced damage and survivability setup for Act 1. Now, around this time, you get access to poison skills such as Poisonous Concoction. You could use Spectral Helix, which, keep in mind, got a considerable nerf, so it won't be that strong anymore. I still think it'll be good for leveling, though. Another good one is Venom Gyre. I recommend that one the least, though. But if you want to, you could probably use it. So if you've got a couple options here. You can keep Explosive Trap all the way through the campaign. You can come up this way to get Trickery, 20% damage. You have Elemental Focus. This gives you a little bit more fire damage. Then you can head this way, grabbing these, and Skitter Bots. Very reservation efficiency. This will let you run Skitter Bots right away. You can grab this, get the Grace, get Charisma, and you should be able to run Skitter Bots with Grace, giving you quite a bit of survivability, quite a bit of damage. From there, there's a few different things you can do. You can run it, come over to Saboteur. You can head up this way and get all these trap nodes, giving you more damage. Some more here. This is what I would recommend. And then eventually switch over to Seismic and you just start scaling these. Now that you're Seismic, you scale this. We'll refund this. We'll put it here. Follow me? Very good survivability, very good damage. Explosive Trap will get you through the whole game like that. If we're not going to use Explosive Trap and you want to go Poison, we'll just change it up just a little bit. So let's say we're using Poisonous Concoction. Instead of going down to Master Sapper, you're just going to go over here. Instead of running Skitter Bots, you'll run Herald of Agony. And then what you could do is come up this way, get these Frenzy Charges, or just go straight up to this Chaos damage and this life. That's fantastic. There's more poison damage this way in Skill Effect Duration, which also works for when you switch over to Seismic Trap. So that's the poison option. Grab this poison. It's almost the same, except you're taking the poison nodes instead of these trap nodes here. And you'll probably want these right away and these. It should give you enough damage to get through. So all the links for this will be, the links for the final will be in the comments section. So let's take a look at that. Here is the final tree. So as you can see, if you leveled with explosive trap, you shouldn't have to refund anything except maybe these. These are also good to have though, because it gives you quite a bit of damage. But I wanted to save my points, so I came this way. So as you can see, if you leveled with explosive trap, you just be adding on here. So a ton of spell suppression down here. Use this early, and then eventually you can just refund that whole part of the tree and put a cluster jewel there. But if you need it, a lot of survivability and life right here. That'll easily cap out your spell suppression with nothing on your gear, making you super tanky. Once this half of the tree is done, come this way. And this will give you the defenses you need for your endgame mapping. Again, the full link to this build will be in the comments section. So let's take a look at the skills and items. So there's 3 mandatory uniques that you're going to need. So solo self-found players, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time getting Deerstalker and Mings. You're going to rely on some RNG for that. So, I mean, if you're solo self-found, I'd just pretend these aren't here. You're just going to have to get lucky. For a trade league, you're going to want to get your hands on Deerstalkers as soon as possible. This is going to allow you to use the Shanguate for clearing and Seismic's Trap for single target damage. The Devouring Diadem you can get by trade or by killing Katarina quite easily. You definitely need this helmet more than anything. Now, Seismic Trap. This is the poison setup, so chance to poison. This will allow you to get to 100% poison chance. I believe the unique jewel-coated shrapnel no longer exists in this upcoming patch, so you can't rely on that. So I'd use this until you can get your poison elsewhere. Then you can eventually take this off and put advanced traps, and that will give you, or sorry, not advanced traps, trap and mine damage. And that will give you a significant amount more damage. But for the most part, you'll be using this. So Seismic Trap, Deadly Ailments, Unbound Ailments, Advanced Traps, Void Manipulation, and Chance to Poison. For auras, we got Grace, Determination, Summoned Skitterbots, and Herald of Agony, all socketed into our diadem. We'll have Malevolence on a Divine Blessing, gives us the free Malevolence banner. Aura. For curses, we got Temporal Chains of Despair. I'm going to use Arcanist Brand to activate these. I'm hoping that works good. If not, you can use Bane, but keep in mind, Bane got a nerf this league, so if you're double cursing with Bane, keep in mind that the curses will have 25% reduced effectiveness. So my experiment is going to be Arcanist Brand for this. There's other options, of course, Hex Touch, Bane, or you can self-cast, but probably a lot of buttons. I wouldn't recommend that. For movement skills, we got Shield Charge, Faster Attacks, Flame Dash. On the side, we have a Bear Trap. This is just to pin bosses and unique enemies in place. Really helpful. For clearing maps, Seismic Trap is not great for clear speed. It's amazing at single target damage or for concentrated groups of enemies. For clearing the actual map itself, we're going to be dropping Exsanguinate traps everywhere. So these will be socketed into your Deerstalker boots. If you're a solo self-found player, you're going to have to swap out the chance for poison for trap support. Unless you're lucky enough to find Deerstalker, but highly unlikely at the beginning. That's what you're going to use for your map clearing. I'm also going to give you an optional setup here. This is leaning more towards bossing. This is Blade Trap with Withering Touch support, Cluster Traps, and multiple traps. And you're going to throw these down while you're unloading Seismics, and this will wither the unique enemies, allowing them to take a considerably amount more poison damage. So I think this is a really cool idea. I haven't personally tested it yet, but in theory it should work, and I believe Hulu, who's one of the top racers in PoE, I believe I've seen him using this setup at some point in the last patch. So just an optional thing to keep in mind if you want to try something new. So Shanguate for clear. Optional setup for bossing or for clearing maps can be Blade Trap with Withering Touch, Cluster Traps, and multiple traps. I'm going to link all this in the comments section, the full build. I'll just give you a quick overview one more time. I'm going to head up this way. Lots of spell suppression down here. all kinds of defenses over this way. You got corrupted blood, immunity, cannot right there if you want it. The determination mastery is there. Very important stuff. You got more reservation if you really needed it there. So there's options here. You got a jewel slot, lots to choose from. So play with it. For your ascendancy, first thing you're gonna grab is perfect crime. This is gonna allow you to use seismic trap efficiently, and then you'll be able to ditch explosive. You really need that 25% reduced cost of skills, and chain reaction is huge for seismic. Don't scale defenses in the campaign. You're gonna go here, here, and then you can go for the blind or the regen. I'd recommend going for the regen first, because unless you have that helmet or using Eldritch Bound, you might have to use life tap on your seismic trap. So just keep that in mind. If you have the mana, you want this first. If you're using life tap, you definitely need this to sustain. All right. Alright guys, next up is the Toxic Rain Pathfinder. This is a extremely good league starter, extremely well rounded. It does everything well. It can heist, it can delve, it can kill bosses, it can map at a very good pace. So for league starter, you can't go wrong. Pathfinder is extremely tanky, so in my opinion, this is going to be easily one of the best hardcore builds you can pick for league start for 3.20. So let's get to it. For leveling, what I like to do is use Caustic Arrow at the beginning, because all the gems are the same as Toxic Rain, of course, and it's chaos damage, so it makes it easy leveling and no regret orbs needed. You're going to get a chance to poison right away, along with Mirage Archer. Those are the gems you get pretty much right off the bat. Clarity is very helpful, of course, as always, for leveling, as is Vitality. If you can buy those from the vendor, that's great. Or get them from rewards. For your movement skill, I believe you just get dash at the beginning, but you can buy Frostblink from the vendor. Thank God. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely hate dash. So I recommend Frostblink. You can get dash for the quest reward. If you're good with that, right on. Now at level 12, you'll get Toxic Rain. And we'll switch to that right away, and that's when we're going to switch our Caustic Arrow over to Ballista Totem. And as we're using our Toxic Rain, Toxic Rain, we will be dropping totems that shoot Caustic Arrow. It works fantastic. So we'll have Toxic Rain with efficacy support. We'll swap that Mirage Archer over here. You could put the chance to poison, but what you want is Vicious Projectiles. I can't remember what level that is. Hang on. I don't think you get that till 18, so you can't quite use that yet. So maybe Chance to Poison might still be your best bet, or LMP. That should get you going through the beginning. Eventually, you can swap the Caustic Arrow totem over to a second Toxic Rain with Withering Touch support, but both setups work quite well. I recommend switching over to the second Toxic Rain when you can, but at the very beginning, the Caustic Arrow totem usually does better. Leave that up to you guys. Now for the tree, what I recommend doing is coming right across here and getting this attack speed. Attack speed's everything in the beginning for Toxic Rain. It allows you to stack up more toxic pods. The more pods, the more chaos damage you're doing. So we'll come here, we'll grab all this beautiful life, finesse. We got more bow damage here. This gives us a decent amount of survivability, but we'll be dishing out so much damage, and you're able to move so well as a ranger. Shouldn't be a problem. Don't get close to anything. Don't ever stay still, and you'll be okay. Then we'll come straight up this way, going over to this life here. Then I'd recommend continuing up this path, grabbing this life, Fangs of the Viper, and the all-important Blood Drinker. Very similar to leveling the seismic trap. From here, we can grab this. More chaos damage, of course. 20% increased effect of Withered is absolutely massive, especially when you start using the Toxic Rain Ballista Totem with Withering Touch. That's huge. From here, we can come up this way, grab Trickery. I'd recommend coming here, like so. This should be a pretty good start. Nice and tanky. Reasonable damage. Alright, so let's get to the main thing, and again, this will be linked in the comment section. So here's what I got going for the full build. Again, shouldn't have to refund anything really except for these can always stay. It's not super important to take them out. I just eventually kind of needed the points elsewhere, so I decided to save myself 2 points and come this way. We're going to come down here, across. Got some beautiful life here. Again, you can come this way at the beginning as well, but I recommend going up first because there's more damage there. But this is great. You've already seen most of this. All fantastic stuff. Secondary curse, this is more endgame. And this half of the tree is, what did I do? Identical to the seismic trap build we just looked at. Except for I've gone into these flask and life nodes here. So that's the tree. This will be linked in the comments. Got corrupted blood immunity again there, which is huge if you need it. Determination mastery, grace mastery here. Everything you need. So let's get to it. Get your hands on the Quill Rain right away if you're in Trade League, and you will blast through the campaign like nobody's business. If you're not in Trade League, good luck finding one. And the Devouring Diadem is the only mandatory unique we need. This is easily accessible in both Trade League and Solo Self-Found, so no problems there. For skills, we're going to have our Malevolence on the Divine Blessing, same as Seismic Trap. Flame Dash is a movement skill. Our Toxic Rain will have Efficacy, Vicious Projectiles, Void Manipulation, Mirage Archer, and Cruelty. For our auras, these will all be socketed into the diadem, of course, to give us the mana we need. You're going to have Determination, Grace, Haste, and Defiance Banner. Haste gives us the attack speed to allow us to stack more pods. This is especially important once the Quill Rain comes off in endgame. Secondary Toxic Rain with Ballista Totems, Withering Touch, multiple totems, and Focused Ballista. Focused Ballista gives the totems a ton more attack speed, allowing that Withered to stack up that much faster. For our curses, I'm going to attempt to do the same setup as Seismic Trap with the spare Temporal Chains and Arcanist brand, and a self-cast Molten Shell. If you absolutely must have Molten Shell on a cast when damage taken, you can take the Focus Ballista out of your armor and link it there. If you're, maybe you could self-cast your curses and put it here. I don't really recommend that. Again, you can also use Bane instead of Arcanist brand, but this is what I want to try because I don't want my curses to lose their effectivity. I also don't want to push more than one button to cast it. So that's the tree. Obviously, the Quill Rain will come off for a rare bow eventually at the end game. Again, this will all be linked in the comments section. Let's talk Ascendancy now. For Ascendancy, the first one I recommend getting is Nature's Reprisal. This is going to give you a ton of chaos damage. It's also going to give you a little bit of defense with that flash charge. Who needs defenses in the campaign, right? For your second Ascendancy, I would definitely recommend going for Nature's Boon. This gives you flash charges every 3 seconds. Obviously crucial for both defense and offense. You can then head towards Master Alchemist or Nature's Adrenaline. This is kind of all up to the player. I personally think that they all have their ups and downs. Decide on your needs and work accordingly, but I definitely recommend getting Nature's Reprisal first, allowing you to dish out the damage you need to do. Alright, next up we got the Righteous Fire Juggernaut. This is going to be the easiest to play, tankiest build on hardcore, I believe, this upcoming ladder. And it also got a significant buff for doing bosses because of the curse changes. So flammability is going to be much more effective against bosses now, making this a really, really strong option if you want to stay alive and get everything done in hardcore this upcoming season. So let's get to it. For leveling, Marauder's a bit of a pain. You're going to start with Holy Flame Totem as your main source of fire damage, and then I usually just use Ground Slam at the beginning and in combination with the Flame Totem. You can put whatever added fire damage, of course, whatever else works good on there. Same thing with Ground Slam. I mean, you start with, I think, Maim, what have you. It's pretty obvious what to put in there. And what we're going to do for leveling is beeline it for the elemental damage, because we're going to be leveling with fire skills. I won't lie to you, Act 1 and 2 are a bit of a pain for a Marauder. One thing while leveling I usually like to do when I'm playing Marauder is grab these elemental resistance nodes right away. It just makes it so much easier, less to worry about. I mean, you don't have to get them right away, but they're there if you need them, right? And then we'll just beeline it for Divine Judgment. And that's going to give us the elemental damage we need to get through the campaign. Oops, that's not right there. And you can put the mastery would be this one. Get the 50 to life, of course. And we'll come up this way, grabbing the rest of this beautiful elemental damage. You can get that if you're using Fire Trap. Okay, so once you can get Armageddon Brand. That's a really good one. Or you can just start using Fire Trap. I think you got to get it from the library, though, if I remember correctly. You don't get it as a Marauder. So in combination with that, at level 28, you can start using a skill called Cremation. Cremation is outstanding for clearing. And it's also pretty good on bossing when in combination with Desecrate. You'll have to get all these from the library, of course, because the Marauder doesn't get them. So essentially, if you're fighting a boss, desecrate a pile of corpses beside the boss, use Cremation, throw your fire traps, or brand them, whichever one you're using. For Armageddon Brand, Efficacy is a great one to link there. Damage over time. Combustion, of course. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The go-to fire skills to use there. Now, once you've done this, I'd recommend coming up this way, grabbing your Aura Reservation, Purity of Flesh. Then there's some more nice fire damage right here for you to get. Then, depending on the type of player you are, you can come this way to give yourself more damage. Or if you want defenses, you start heading down here. Oh, that didn't work very good, did it? There we go. Get your Determination Mastery, fill this out, so on and so forth. There's more Mana Reservation or effect there. So you want defense, go down. You want offense, go up. Alright, like that. So, along with your Cremation, Desecrate, Fire Trap, Armageddon Brand, whichever ones you decide to use, you're going to want to obviously use Flammability. Another big one here is going to be Herald of Ash. Gives you a lot of extra damage. Vitality, of course, for leveling. You can get life tap on pretty much everything right away as a Marauder, so that's fantastic. Another thing I forgot to mention, if you want to sustain RF as soon as possible, you're going to want to grab these nodes right away. And when you do your Ascendancy, you'll want to get Untiring first, followed by Unbreakable to give you your defense. So that's pretty much it for leveling. You get by with your Slam and your Holy Flame Totem for the beginning. It's a little bit rough. Once you get Armageddon Brand, it should start going a lot smoother. You can also use Fire Trap once you get to the library. You definitely start leveling it no matter what. And then use a combination of either Cremation and Fire Trap or Cremation and Armageddon Brand, and that will not only clear areas out quite quick for you, but also put down bosses rather quickly. So let's get to the main build. This is the finished product. Now, the only items I've put on here is a Sappho's frame, and I just put some heavy armor gloves just to get my max resistance to show you guys how tanky this build can be. So these is Level 84, pinnacle boss settings. And with no gear, but Saffles frame and some gloves and boots, look at those defenses. Kind of absurd. So you could imagine what it's like with a piece of armor, like Brass Dome, for instance. Let's check that out. Watch what happens. Boom. Now we're up to pretty much laughing in the face of any elemental attack in the game. And physical damage reduction's gone up quite a bit as well. If you can mitigate your physical damage taken to an element, you're immortal, basically, with this build. I mean, as you can see, look at those numbers, and that's with no gear, no flasks. I mean, you start throwing flasks into the mix here, just to give you guys an idea of how tanky this build is. And the damage is also quite good. Throw a Taste of Hate on there. Throw a Granite Flask. And turn those on, and just look at what happens. So again, this can go up significantly higher, and this is super pinnacle boss settings. So I mean, when you're just running around doing your regular maps, you're looking at millions. I mean, you do this right, you can't die unless you're being stupid. Let's put it that way. So incredibly tanky. Damage wise, again, this is no gear, 56,000. So you can imagine what it's like with gear. Fire trap again, 57,000. That's without an Elder helmet and without any gear. So the damage is not extremely high, but just enough. But you got to keep in mind too that the curse effectiveness is going to be a huge difference maker with this build. So with Maven boots, all that, I'd expect your fire trap to be easily do over 1 million. Righteous fire probably 500,000 would be my guess. So there you have it. The eventual ascendancy. The last one you're going to get is unflinching. Unstoppable would probably be my third one. And again, this will be linked in the comments section, the POB. So good luck, guys. Saffles frame is very important in this build. Just to mention that allows you to get max spell block without glancing blows. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you could just stand right in Cyrus's beam with this build if you're doing it right. The defenses are unreal. And another beautiful thing, if you need chaos res, you got that right there. If you need it, take it. Get it on your gear later. Stay alive. Alright guys, this will be linked in the comments section. Alright, next up we got the Absolution Necromancer. This has been one of my favorite builds since I started playing Path of Exile. As a player who started out in hardcore and going into boss fights blind, this was the first build that managed to get me through to the endgame bosses. I was able to kill the Black Star and the Infinite Hunger without having a clue what I was doing. So that's how strong this build is. The Eater of Worlds killed me though, because I didn't understand the inescapable Doom mechanic. Anyway, let's get to it. This is an incredibly powerful build for solo self-found hardcore players. It'll just blast through the campaign with ease, get you to red maps with ease. From there, it falls off a little bit and takes some investment. So let's get into it. For leveling, you're just gonna come right up this way. Start out with Spark, Freezing Pulse, whatever you like. You're gonna grab Lord of the Dead. These two nodes here. Come up this way, getting this life and the 50 life. As soon as you can, you're going to switch over to Summon Raging Spirits. Summon Raging Spirit. You're going to have Combustion on there. This will be your single target damage. You'll still be using Freezing Pulse or Spark to clear out packs, most likely. You can also use a few things you could use there. We'll use some minion damage. You get that right away. That's pretty good. Minion speed. Whoops. Minion damage. That's good 3-link. At level 12, you're going to get Absolution. You can switch right over to that right away. You can still use Raging Spirit on the side with it. I really like both of them, honestly, because Absolution's kind of a funky skill. You got to hit the enemies. Like when you're fighting a unique enemy, it has a sometimes the minions don't want to come out and play. So Summon Raging Spirit, they always come out and play. It's a lot safer. So at your own discretion, you can switch right over to Absolution right away. I recommend continuing to use Summon Raging Spirits for the first little bit. Absolution, you're going to want to put Physical to Lightning on there. I also find faster casting works best until you get Spell Echo, along with Lightning Penetration. You could also use Elemental Focus. I like Lightning Penetration, but play around with it. Okay, so that's that. From there, we're going to grab this minion damage, and we're going to start heading this way. And get some more defenses, discipline and training, then we're going to come this way. You can also go like this, but I recommend, especially for leveling, getting these nodes, and then you can always take them out later. But you get some extra damage and also some extra minion survivability for your Spectres and Animate Guardian and stuff like that when you start using that. And you'll come over here, get more life, beautiful life, some aura reservation, aura effect, all that great stuff. Everything's looking pretty good here. You'll keep going straight down this way now and grab these minion nodes here. One thing I forgot to mention is you want to get the 20% increased effective offerings, and you're going to be using Flesh Offering as soon as you can, and use it often. It gives you a lot of damage. You'll have Vitality and Clarity, hopefully. If you have enough scrolls to buy it from the vendor, get them as soon as you can. And that's pretty much the setup for leveling. It's very easy. You'll blow through the campaign with this skill. And then you can either keep going this way if you want more defenses. If you feel like your defenses are good enough, then let's go like this and get this minion damage here. Okay, for your first Ascendancy, there's two things you can do. You can take the resistance if you need it, or you can take the spell block if you need it. As soon as you get Tempest Shield, you're going to put that on. I'm going to give you your spell block, of course. Let's just throw any random shield on so we can see that. Not an Aegis Aurora, maybe. Or what the hell, it doesn't have spell block on it, so who cares? Aegis Aurora shows us our block chance. It's at 25%. As soon as you do, if you decide to take this first or second, but as soon as you do take it, you're going to lose the Flesh Offering. You're going to put a Bone Offering. And then this, look what happens to your spell block there. Again, if you need defenses, you can now grab Mystic Bulwark, and you can go into this spell block here, and your spell block is maxed, just like that. There's a few ways to go about it, but that's essentially the leveling setup. Let's look at the finished effect. Here we go. So, as you can see, I really like making builds where I don't have to change anything. So, no refund points needed. You're coming up here, come up this way, grab that. Grab the Jewel Slot, Mystic Bulwark. Coming down here. This helps our minions survive. You can also come this way. Refund these later. It's another option. I recommend taking them. Minions are very squishy now. But and then from here I'm gonna go way over here, grab Eldritch Battery. This is more endgame style because that's gonna allow you to use your Divine Blessing auras, all that stuff. But it takes away some of your defenses, so don't get this until you need it. The extra curses again. As soon as you worry about your defenses first, that's a damage thing. As you can see, it's very similar. You shouldn't have to refund anything at all. Alright, for skills, we're going to have Zealotry, Divine Blessing, Inspiration, and Haste. You're going to be casting those constantly to dish out a ton of damage. In your Absolution, you'll have Physical to Lightning, Minion Damage, Lightning Penetration, Elemental Focus, and Spell Echo. Another good option is to swap one of the blue gems out for Summon Phantasm. But I don't recommend it for bossing, especially because you're going to want to deal the most elemental damage you can and double curse the boss, because curses have had a huge buff. You're just going to absolutely destroy bosses with this setup, for sure. In your second weapon, you're going to have Conductivity to Elemental Weakness. You can trigger this with Bane. You can self-cast it. You've heard me talk a lot about Arcanist Brand in this video, so there's a lot of options for that. Another thing you can do if you're self-casting is put your Flame Dash here. So, a lot of different options here. Self-casting 2 curses kind of sucks. I would recommend using Bane or a trigger of some kind. Like I said, Arcanist Brand, whatever. We're going to have Ray Zombie, meat shield, elemental army, and minion life. Unfortunately, with the nerfs to minions, minion life's kind of a necessity now. So we're basically losing Animate Guardian altogether, which really, really sucks. Later on, when you get an Elder Helmet, you can then put minion life crafted onto the Elder Helmet and get rid of this minion life and put your Guardian there. I really don't see how you can make it work any other way without having your Guardians or zombies constantly dying. So, not many options anymore. So, minion life I would recommend, and just forget about your Guardian. They just seem to die all the time anyway now, unless you really invest into them. Yeah, you're gonna have your Bone Offering and your Trigger Wand with ooh, I got a mistake here. Determination shouldn't be there. Desecrate should be there. With Desecrates, that's all, making sure your Bone Offering is always on. You don't have to worry about pressing any buttons or anything for that. Determination will go in your unset ring here. And then we got Raise Spectre, Feeding Frenzy, Wrath, and Convocation. Convocation isn't a must-have, but I personally really like it. But this build is so stock it's starved, you might have to put Flame Dash there. Or keep Convocation in there, lose your Vol and Purity of Lightning, and put Flame Dash there. I mean, you're really, really socket starved for your movement skill, as you can tell. I got 2 unset rings on just to make this all happen. So if you really, really need to, what you can do is probably just lose the zombies altogether. Put your Feeding Frenzy on your Spectres with your Elemental Army. And you could put either Minion Life and Minion Life. And that, hopefully that will keep your Spectres alive. And then you can get rid of that. Now you have an entire boots to fill in for your, let's say you wanted to put Shield Charge with faster attacks and Flame Dash, you could put it all there now. Okay, so socket starved is the long story short. It's going to be up to the player what they want to move around, what they want to sacrifice, movement, damage, defenses. But this is a pretty good overall setup. Again, this is going to be a build that absolutely crushes bosses. It's going to do everything really well. When I had no idea what I was doing in this game, I got to endgame bosses. I was delving deep. I was running blighted maps, doing just about everything with this. So it was very, very powerful, very easy to use. Even, you know, and I got quite far considering I had no game knowledge at the time. So I highly recommend Absolution. I really think it's going to be a super, super, super powerful skill with these new curse changes. And as you can see, eventually an endgame cluster jewel minion cluster will go there. This will all be in the comment section. Once you put the cluster jewel in, you'll probably have to get rid of this. Connect it here, giving you enough to put that cluster jewel in, because it's going to be huge for your endgame. You'll have large with 2 mediums there. And then again, you might have to refund some of your defensive stuff down here as well to make that work. So keep that in mind. Good luck, guys. One thing I forgot to mention, Absolution, if you haven't played it before, it can be a bit of a pain sometimes when you're bossing to make the minions come out and play. The way Absolution works is when you kill an enemy, the minions appear. When you're fighting a boss, they don't always come out. It's a percentage on each hit, I think 25% chance. We can look at the gem to confirm that. Let's see. %25 chance when hitting a rare, so it can be an absolute pain. I've been stuck on bosses where they just won't come out and play. The answer to that is the Worm Flask. Writhing Jar. You use this, the worms come out, you kill the worms, your minions are out. Problem solved. Alright, last but not least is my favorite of all time, the Cold Dot Occultist League Starter. This is an incredibly well-rounded build, does everything in the game. For the last few leagues, racers have been doing really well with this. It's been consistently one of the best builds for quite some time now, and even though Occultist was nerfed, it's still going to be incredibly powerful because the curses were buffed. So when it comes to your mapping, is probably going to be significantly slower due to the changes in Profane Bloom and some other stuff. But at the end of the day, the boss damage is going up huge. So when you're killing bosses, when you're fighting hard elite packs, you're going to be doing a lot better due to the curse changes. So it's still going to be incredibly powerful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Yes, Occultist was nerfed. It's still great. Let's start from scratch here. This is how I like to level them. For leveling, I use... what are we doing? Freezing Pulse. I get an Elemental Prolif on that right away. That just freezes everything, of course. And then, eventually, you want to switch to your Wintertide brand. I think you get that at level 12. On your Wintertide brand, you will have efficacy support. You can have Elemental Prolif there if you need to. Arcane Surge should work there. Again, whatever you can get your hands on. Controlled Destruction's your best bet. I think you get that at level 16 maybe in Act 2. Can't remember exactly. Elemental Focus, of course, is another good one. The typical stuff. Cold damage. Freezing Pulse and Elemental Prolif's huge out the gate. You want to get a Clarity and Vitality as usual, like all my leveling builds. You want Frost Bomb. This is going to give you elemental exposure, and it's just a lot of damage at the beginning as well. So Frost Bomb, I like to put Arcane Surge on there. And depending on how many ID scrolls you have, Elemental Proliferation's great there too. Freezing things. So a lot of different stuff you can do here. Wintertide brand is just fantastic in combination with Freezing Pulse and Frost Bomb. You just very, very good. And then you get Vortex at level 28, and as soon as you get Vortex, you'll switch to that. So, but for the beginning, Wintertide brand, Frost Bombing, and Freezing Pulse, combination of all three skills, it'll blast you through the game, no problem. Obviously, use Frost Blink, very helpful skill. And let's get to it. So for leveling, what I like to do is shoot straight up this direction. Another option is go like this if you want more damage. I personally like to go like this because that's the way my build is. I don't need to refund anything. Then I just grab this cold damage here. Grab this life node like that. Now there's a couple more options here. You can take a shortcut. If you want the damage, you can go like this. For leveling, I definitely recommend taking that damage. If you need nodes later, you can refund like so. And you save yourself 1 point, which isn't really a big deal. So honestly, probably better to stick like that. Then I like to come this way. It's going to give me a lot of survivability and a lot of spell damage. The Holy Dominion gives you some extra resistances as well. Grab the 50 life. Come this way. Grab this damage right here, 50%. Excellent stuff. Then we'll grab our Purity of Flesh and our Aura effect and Reservation. Damn good start, right? Okay, from there, this is about the time. Obviously, you'd have your Vortex in by now. Now you have access to skills like Bone Chill, Cold Snap. So at this point, Freezing Pulse will now be gone. Wintertide brand will be gone, and you'll be using Vortex with Cold Snap. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. Creeping Frost. As soon as you get Creeping Frost, get rid of Freezing Pulse and start using Creeping Frost. Let's see what level it is. That's the one. Level 12. So level 12, you'll be using Creeping Frost instead of Freezing Pulse. Sorry about that. So now that you switched over to Vortex, you'll be using Vortex, Cold Snap, and Creeping Frost. You can socket Creeping Frost into the Vortex. If you have the sockets, you can keep it on its own. It'll do more damage. On your Cold Snap, you're going to want Bone Chill. Okay. You can also put Creeping Frost in with your Cold Snap. Sometimes I do that. Depends what my socket situation's like, honestly, alright? Or into the Vortex too. That's eventually your Creeping Frost is going to go into your Vortex. So you got your Vortex with Hypothermia. Efficacy is a really good one at the beginning. Elemental Focus can't cannot inflict ailments, so it's no good with hypothermia, obviously. So what you want to do is controlled destruction. That's pretty good for leveling. That'll get you through the campaign. Once I've gone there, I'm gonna head this way. This build does tons of damage on its own, you know, so just grab these more defense. Play it in hardcore. You can grab trickery, some more defense here. Then I like to grab this. It's a lot of damage. You can grab this. It's more damage as well. It's up to you whether you want to head to these ores there or come up this way for some more damage. There's cold damage over multiplier right there. Alright, so let's look at the finished product. As you can see, again, I don't like refunding things. You can connect here and lose this. I'm not sure why I've done this, but I'm sure there's a reason. As you can see, no refunding necessary. Everything stays the same. Going this way, straight down. Here, grace efficiency. This part of the tree here. Oh, I got a node just hanging out there in no man's land. Oh, I screwed up. Okay, here we go. Got the grace mastery. Gonna come over this way. You're gonna grab the spell suppression. Once you get it on your gear, you can take it off. It might take a while. I really like this. A lot of people go this way into Mage Bane and all that. I find this is, personally, I think this is more effective, as you don't lose your evasion from your dexterity, and then there's just more spell suppression here, as well as prevent +3 of suppressed spell damage is prevented +3, so huge. Then we'll head up here. Blood Drinker is a massive one, keeping you alive with life on kill. Ghost Dance is huge, of course. Okay, so let's look at the skills here. We got Vortex with Hypothermia, Control Destruction, Swift Affliction, Creeping Frost, and Life Tap. Creeping Frost is socketed with your Vortex. This is, allows you to dish out double the single target damage. If you were to go with just Vortex alone, you're doing half that. We got Enfeeble with Shield Charge and faster attacks. You're only going to cast Enfeeble on powerful enemies and when you're in tough situations. Bosses, rare mob packs, stuff like that. Extra defenses. We got Cold Snap with Bone Chill, Control Destruction, and Hypothermia. Determination with Grace with Molten Shell when cast when damage taken. The Molten Shell will be level 11. Cast when damage taken will be level 3. Then we have Vitality linked with Arrogance, and that will be separate from Malevolence. So don't link Malevolence to your Arrogance, for obvious reasons, and you should be fine. I got Frostbite, Elemental Weakness with Arcanus Brand, and Flame Dash. So this is going to allow us to cast our double curses. We can throw a third Enfeeble in when we feel necessary, and this is overall pretty strong. One thing you might be able to do is swap Life Tap for Inspiration support. That would probably allow you to take Vitality off, although I don't recommend it because there's just so many damn debuffs in this game and burning grounds and things like that. I personally always like to have Vitality on, and I'm usually always have it on Arrogance. That's just a personal choice of mine. And there you have it. For your Ascendancy, keep in mind Malediction and Profane Bloom have been extremely nerfed, but I mean, hexing hexproof enemies is still huge, obviously. And then the additional curse is huge. One thing you can do is maybe use a Doedre's Ring for your extra curse, skip Malediction altogether, and go into Withering Presence. You'll never have a Chaos Resistance problem if you do this. It's just an option. I personally probably still going to go for the extra curse, so I can wear 2 Vermilion Rings for extra life, something like that. Or I could get a Chaos Res on a ring too. But just an option. I mean, 60 Chaos Res is a lot, and every nearby hindered enemies deal 15% reduced damage over time. So if you can somehow hinder them, that could be huge as well, right? So just an option. If you don't want to worry about Chaos Res, put that in there. Get your additional curse elsewhere. Just an option. And then everything's the same. Frigid Wake, of course. Void Beacon. That's our build. Now this is a very, very tanky all-round build. Easily just get you through the game, no problem. It's one of the most well-rounded builds there is. Good luck.